With the NFL season ending, do you find yourself bored or maybe trying to fill your time with hobbies? Well, put it all behind you because it's the NFL offseason and the NFL is king. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the 5 free agent quarterbacks that are going to impact the NFL on the largest scale, starting with Sam Darnold. The former 3rd overall pick had an exquisite year in his 7th year in the NFL. Nobody saw it coming. He essentially had career highs in every single number, increased his pass efficiency through the roofs, a 6% increase on his accuracy, touchdowns off the charts. And despite all that, they got bounced in the first round, 27-9 to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, with J.J. McCarthy returning this season, now we're going to be looking at Sam Darnold hitting the free agency pie. And based on their draft picks and, of course, the amount of money that's out there in free agency and how much salary cap each team has, there are a few landing spots where I think Sam Darnold makes a lot of sense. When you're looking at the top 10 teams in the NFL with the amount of money they have, and then also looking at where their draft picks are, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are where he's going to end up. Hear me out. They have the 8th most money in the NFL offseason. Justin Fields and Russell Wilson didn't really cut it as they finished their season on a 5-game losing streak. Sam Darnold might be a good fit there, and I think they'd be willing to pay to stay relevant. Now, Najee Harris, we know he's going to be gone this offseason as well. He's going to be on my 10 running back free agents video that's coming out next week. There's a good chance they're going to have Jalen Warren pick somebody else up in free agency or the draft at running back. They got a decent offensive line, but really I think where things get exciting for bringing in Sam Darnold is he's got a true alpha. Guys like Brandon Ayuk can go out there and get a $25 million contract in free agency. I think George Pickens would demand the same when it's his turn. So I'm taking this chance here if I'm the Steelers, and I'm going out there and I'm getting Sam Darnold because they are not the type of team that's going to rebuild. They're not going to blow it up. They're not going to play for the future. It's Mike Tomlin, always competitive right here, right now. Now, there are 2 other teams that do need a quarterback that have a lot of money in the top 10. That's both the Titans with the 1st overall pick and the Raiders with the 6th pick. Now, the Titans definitely are going to be drafting quarterback number 1 overall. I think a lot of people can agree on that at this point, and there's just no chance the Raiders go into 2025 with this bevy of quarterbacks and this bevy of running backs. They are just hurting. The only place where they really have anything interesting is not wide receiver, but tight end. My friends, they've got 1 offensive piece. So again, similar to the Titans, I can't see them saying, yeah, that's right, let's go out there and pay $30 million for Sam Darnold. And yes, he's going to cost that much. Baker Mayfield cost 33. Geno Smith costs 30. They're not going to go spend $30 million on Sam Darnold when there's literally nothing to surround him with other than Brock Bowers. And for the Titans, literally potentially nobody. So I don't think that either of those teams will go get him. I think anybody else who needs him as much as the Steelers might not be willing to pay as much as the Steelers can in a bidding war. That's why I think he ends up a Steeler. Next up, let's talk about Jameis Winston. This man injected serious life into the hapless Cleveland Browns offense this season. Browns scored 21-plus points in all 7 of 7 games with him as the starting quarterback. The games went just about as well as they always do. They're up and down. You get a little bit of goodness, you get a little bit of badness out of Jameis Winston. You never know what you're going to get from play to play, from drop back to drop back, and he showed us the same this season. It was a fun ride nonetheless. And I do think that he provides an NFL team some value here. And then listen, we just talked about 2 teams, and I think his landing spots are potentially both the Titans or the Raiders. They have a ton of money. They could bring somebody in to keep the seat warm for whomever they draft to be their future quarterback. Or if a team like the Raiders says, nope, we don't like the quarterbacks available at number 6, we're actually just going to give Winston the job for a year. We're not going to be that good. And next year, we'll go ahead and try to do it again. And on the Titans side, they could take the approach like the Vikings did with J.J. McCarthy. Now, I think there's a precipitous drop-off in talent at quarterback after those 2 players. And we're going to run through them right now. I said 5. I'm going to talk about 7 or 8 of them, and they're going to be a little bit quicker. Justin Fields is next up. Yes, that's right. Went 4-2 for the Steelers as a starter, but we saw mostly what we saw out of Chicago with a slight improvement. And he might potentially be like a Sam Darnold. You got to surround him with a lot of talent. got to make sure your line is pretty good. Give him some time to make a play or two, and just let him go out there and do what he does. That's make plays with his legs, run the football. If you're forcing him into a pocket quarterback experience, it ain't going to be good for anybody. Now, at this stage of his career, I don't believe he's going to get many more starting opportunities. I think he's going to get brought in as a backup. And this is why I think this season he's going to end up on one of those mid-tier teams like the Dallas Cowboys. Cooper Rush, the backup quarterback, well, yeah, he's a free agent as well. We're going to talk about him in about 2 minutes. So he's gone. They're going to need somebody to come in there and be the backup for Dak Prescott. Running back Rico Dowdle is also a free agent. I think there's a good chance they bring him back. However, who knows how much money he's going to command on the market and if they decide to match it or not. After CeeDee Lamb, you've got a whole mess of things at wide receiver. And I think that a guy like Justin Fields could be one of those players that could come in a spot start or two, keep the offense afloat because he doesn't need to throw it a ton and he can make some plays with his legs. I think a team like the Rams or even the Chargers are another potential landing spot. Teams that aren't, they're not broke. They're middle of the road, salary cap wise, and they could bring somebody in as we'll call him a quality backup at this point, who could go out there and go 4-2 in a 6-game stretch for the Steelers. Could do that for another franchise if they need it for a short spurt. Now, we're just mentioning Cooper Rush. Let's talk about him. This man played some inspired football, rallied the Cowboys franchise, led the Cowboys to wins in 4 out of the last 6 games, threw 10 tutties and only 3 picks in that stretch, and was a very serviceable backup. Did so with CeeDee Lamb, playing most of those games as well. What I think Cooper Rush did is he guaranteed himself opportunities on winning teams. I don't think he's going to go get a job for the Raiders and be the next Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. I think teams who are good are going to say a guy like Cooper Rush can come on the field in a pinch if a guy like, Matt Stafford for the Rams goes down. And then we'd still have a guy to get the ball to Puka Nacua and keep the offense afloat, allow Kyron Williams to run the ball 25 times a game. And I think that Cooper Rush is going to end on a competitive squad this year. I could actually see him being a backup for one of the top teams in the NFL, or a team with an aging quarterback or with injury concerns, but they're a good roster and they're going to need some opportunities to stay afloat should somebody get hurt. I think the Steelers could be an interesting landing spot as well, regardless of whether or not they bring in Sam Darnold. Now, do they want to pay that much money for a lot of people? I don't think so, but I don't think anybody is going to get a very long-term contract. I think even a guy like Sam Darnold, he might command $30 million, but it's going to be like a 2-year contract, 3-year contract with outs on the 3rd year. Something like that I could see working itself out. Now, Danger Us, let's talk about Russell Wilson. Tale of 2 seasons. They won 6 of their first 7 games as a starter, and then they lost their last 5 games to close out the season. Literally, Jekyll and Hyde. Who are you going to get? Well, you saw. First half was insane. Second half was awful. Averaged 254 yards passing per game, 1.71 passing touchdowns per game. Looks so good through the first 7 games. 6-1 run for the Steelers. And then finishes the season 0-5, losing everything, throwing only 193 yards passing and 1.2 passing touchdowns per game. George Pickens certainly looked upset there in the final stretch and in the playoffs. It looked like he wanted to try or play. It was not a good look for Pickens, not a good look for the Steelers franchise. And Danger Us, Justin Fields, they're both out. There's no way they would return to Pittsburgh after the season they just had. So where is he going to go this year? Now, I think he's going to be a similar player to Cooper Rush, someone who could go somewhere for a team like the Packers. Packers don't have a ton of money, but you know what they do? They have a lot of talent on their team. They need a quarterback who can come in there if Jordan Love gets hurt, and they could stay afloat with a guy like Russell Wilson, who has proven he can get the football to some of those playmakers, but maybe might not be able to do it over the course of a full season. Surround him with young talent like Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks. You've got Tucker Kraft look decent at tight end, and a strong running game with Josh Jacobs, and I think Russell Wilson could be a perfect landing spot to be the backup to Jordan Love. If Jordan Love continues to be injury prone, Russell Wilson's going to get some spot starts, play some significantly important games for the NFC North hopefuls. Now, real quick, you ever played over on Underdog? I'm telling you, you got to give it a look. This season, I do a whole bunch of pick'em as well as best ball, and there'll be a ton of best ball on this channel. I do pick'em on my other channel. That link's down below if you're interested. It's a really, really fun game. You guys can use code Donuts over there. You get not only a free pick, but up to $1,000 deposit bonus cash. Just got to use code Donuts. Very, very fun platform. And you'll be seeing it ton on this channel, on my other YouTube channel, and all over my social media platform. Now, Aaron Rodgers, I bet there are a few people that turned in today like, all right, let's talk about A-Rod. No, I don't want to. I think he's done. He's kaput. He's finished. He's over. His career has ended. Here's why. Not talent. Yes, it is limited at this point. But there are guys like Russell Wilson still in the NFL and Joe Flacco in the NFL getting opportunities. The problem is they get brought in to be backups, and they sign at backup money, and they sign in backup positions, and they're knowingly only going to get an opportunity if an injury occurs or there's a nightmare on the field at quarterback as a starter. And the problem with Aaron Rodgers is I don't think his ego or pride or his goals and desires at this point in his career align with what a team wants if they were to bring him in. I don't think any team's going to say, Rodgers, we're going to bring you in to compete, take us to the playoffs on any given team like that. Because there aren't any teams that are like that this year, and there are no quarterback needy teams who are good other than the Steelers, and I don't think they're bringing in Rodgers. So I think Aaron Rodgers potentially might be done. So I'm not going to talk about him as a top free agent because I don't think he ends up wanting to sign anywhere that will offer him any money. Now, let me run down some of these names here. Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, J.K. Dobbins, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams, Rico Dowdle, T. Higgins, Stephon Diggs, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, Keenan Allen. I've got so many players to talk about, and I want you to check the next video down below. Going to talk about the top 10 free agent wide receivers down below. And then next week, you're going to get the running backs video, and I will continue to hammer out content here on this channel, at least 1 to 2 videos per week. Going to be NFL shorts coming out on Thursdays, long form on Tuesdays. You're going to love it. It's going to be a full experience of NFL 52 weeks of season on this channel. I love y'all. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Hit that sub button on your way out. Turn them noties on. Don't want you to miss those future videos. And no matter what, my friends, let's get paid.